March 13th. Welcome to Cecil.tv and Cecil Weekly. It's the eve of Winter Storm Stella. And here with us in the studio tonight is Chuck Stoner from Deep Roots. I'm Rob Churnside, your host. Welcome, Chuck.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rob.
Now, I know very little about Deep Roots. Why don't you explain to me and our viewers what Deep Roots is and what it's all about?
Okay. Deep Roots is a relatively young organization, nonprofit organization. It was founded in 2012, and it was founded by 4 people, basically sitting around the kitchen table and coming up with ideas. And they all 4 had experienced homelessness as children and the terrible effects of homelessness. So that's how it started. And the goal then, as it is now, is to end child homelessness. And it's focused on kids that are homeless and that are at risk of being homeless, so out in the community. So that's the goal, and what we want to do is challenge kids to envision a brighter future, to develop and sustain healthy relationships, and to develop a personal and social responsibility. So we want to nurture them and give them opportunities to dream and break the cycle, set a precedent in their own lives, within their families, and for future generations that does not involve being homeless. So how do we do that?
That was my next question.
Okay, good. So a couple ways. First, we have a series of events that we schedule for the kids, and this is things that they would not otherwise be able to do. So they're educational, they're fun, they're exciting. Hopefully, they're all 3, and these are set monthly or a little bit more than that.
And these kids, you have a facility where they stay, correct?
Some, yes. Some of the kids are at the transitional housing facility, Clairvaux Farm, and others are in the community. So the kids in the community have experienced homelessness, and are at risk of becoming homeless again, but currently are not. So it's both. We have kids in both situations.
And I know, Chuck, there's a lot of people who are homeless. In my previous work with the health department, they may stay with one person for a week. Mm-hmm. Then the next week they're staying with somebody else. The next week they're in their car.
Right.
Back and forth.
Right.
How do you deal with that?
That's the couch surfing and that type thing. And that's what the kids see. And if the kids live that, then there's a great chance that that'll be repeated as they become adults. So without addressing homelessness at the kid level, these things can just be a repeating cycle.
So you have events.
Right. And at these events, the key is to build relationships. So it's more than just let's go have fun and then goodbye. It's building relationships that are supportive, hopefully long lasting. We have loving staff and volunteers who participate, and these relationships are critical to in the whole package to giving these kids dreams for the future, giving them, allowing them to set goals and have the confidence to achieve those goals.
You do things like helping with their homework, I guess?
There's an aspect to that at Clairvaux Farm. There's an after-school program where that is done. That's one of the needs that we have, mentors, and to do some more of that, some more tutoring. But that is done as well, yes.
So Deep Roots across the board, you need volunteers. What specific skills could people bring to your table?
Well, we have a large variety of needs right now for volunteers. Right now, a primary needs transportation, and that is first for the kids' events. We need volunteers to pick the kids up, so we gather them at the site of the event, and sometimes right now, some kids don't get to go because we don't have the drivers. So that's one transportation need. There's also needs to transport people to the residents of Clairvaux Farm, to medical appointments, We do runs to Elkton to shop and that type thing from time to time. So that's one major need. Now, in addition to that, we need help in the kitchen, planning and organizing meals. We need help with the after-school program, office assistance. We have a quarterly newsletter that we need assistance to get out. And so, as you can see, we have a lot of volunteer needs. And you know, if somebody has an idea that they would like to provide a service, maybe we haven't even thought of that, that would be a great opportunity there as well.
Now, Chuck, I know you're a volunteer yourself. You told me you worked at APG, you're a chemist.
Right.
How can people get in touch with Deep Roots so that they can volunteer and help out?
Okay, the best thing to do is get on our website, www.deeprootsinc.org. There's a Get Involved tab, and there's a link for the volunteer application. It'll come right up. So that's the best way to get started. volunteer@deeprootsinc.org is an email address, and our volunteer coordinator can help out there. So those are the two best ways to get started. Fill out an application, give us a call if you want. The phone number's on the website, and get started that way.
Well, I know Cecil County is a very giving and generous county. I'm sure lots of people will be getting in touch. I want to thank you, Chuck, for coming down here to Cecil.TV, Cecil Weekly.
All right, Rob, thank you.
And now, from Milburn Stone Theatre, we have Brandon Gorin. Brandon, welcome.
Yes. Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great. We were playing with your little puzzle there, trying to figure it out, and you actually got it.
We did, and we got yelled at. We got in trouble because it was too loud. So immediately I got yelled at on this show. That felt pretty good.
You're consistent.
Yeah, we're running it. We're running together.
Tell us about your agenda with Milburn Stone.
So I work with Milburn Stone. I've been working there for a while, and next Saturday, March 18th at 8 p.m., we're showing We Are Strangers, which is our first film in our film series. It's by the Private Cabin Collective, and it is a very low-budget film about growing older and growing apart from people. It's funny, and it's really sad, and it's sort of mumblecore-y, so it's a little bit more rough around the edges than what a lot of people are used to watching, but that's one of the things that I think people are really going to like about it. We're not going to show you, it's not Avengers. No one's going to fly through a building. We're going to sit down. We're going to talk to each other. We're going to realize that sometimes you can be really close to people, and by neither fault of the person, you're going to grow apart, and that's what life is about. And that's what sort of that idea of the film is.
And mumblecore is?
Mumblecore is a movement in film, and I don't think they would call it mumblecore, where in our conversation there are moments when we talk, because we're being recorded, we are very specific with our words, and I am right now making sure I say everything as well as I can. But in reality, when we talk to each other, we sort of trail off, and I cut you off a little bit, and I go, and you go, what? And I go, it's not that important. And that is sort of, mumblecore is looking at that style of conversation and that style of life, and sort of it trails off in this direction for a little bit, and then we have plot that moves this way, and stuff sort of gets lost in the mix, just like real life. So it's more of a reality-based style, but it's still a stylistic choice.
Well, it sounds like a fascinating film. March 18th, correct?
March 18th on Saturday. That is next Saturday, and it's really something we're seeing. It's going to be the first film in our film series. It's a little baby film. I mean, it's full length, but in build, it's a tiny little baby film. So it's worth seeing. It's worth support. You know, it's easy to say you support local art and small art, and these guys are from New York, so they're not local. Well, a little bit local if you take a bus. But it's better to not only say you support local art, but go support weird mumblecore movies as well. That's a good opportunity for people.
Cool.
Yeah,
Northeast Campus?
Northeast Campus, absolutely. And it's $5, popcorn's free. I might bring some apples if anybody wants an apple. I think it's a good apple movie where you eat an apple and think about your life. So yeah, that's what it is.
A first, and it sounds great.
Yeah, it's
what
our
else do you
first
have to
film.
offer our viewers?
I'm going to go through the list real quick. Now we're auditioning for Singing in the Rain, and that is March 23rd and March 26th. And so if you want to be a Singing in the Rain, this is your opportunity to audition. It's a big show. You're going to like it. We're going to make it rain on stage. You're already excited. And then we also have Lady Day, which I'm going to have to read about this one, because I know it. It's a one-woman show, and it's based on a singer that I can't remember at the moment, but it's going to be a really, really good show. And that is March 31st. Also, April 21st, we are doing Mary Poppins. So if you want to see Mary Poppins live and something to bring the kids to, absolutely come see Mary Poppins, please. So that's the 21st and the next 2 weekends.
Oh, a lot of us grew up with Mary Poppins.
Absolutely.
And it's a wonderful show, and I'm sure you'll do supercalifragilisticexpialidocious and all that stuff.
Absolutely. And even though I love him, whoever's playing Dick Van Dyke is going to have a better British accent, because his is terrible in that movie. So we learned to have a slightly better British accent than Dick Van Dyke. I think the one thing we can say that we did better than Dick Van Dyke, and it's only one thing, it's not much, is that we had a better British accent.
Well, that is something you can say.
Absolutely, and it's a great show. It's a big, fun show. It's going to have big sets, a lot of people on stage, beautiful singers, absolutely worth seeing.
April 21st.
April 21st. And then it runs for the weekends.
Now
Check us out.
Brandon, you don't seem like you're ever lost for anything to say. How do you talk to people at totally another professional level, correct?
Yes. Well, it's not professional, and what I do is I am always full of panic. So the fact that I'm always full of panic covers me up pretty well. I also do stand-up in Philadelphia and Baltimore, and I'm doing a wrestling show called Awful Wrestling on April 1st, and I'm doing a Calendar Boy, which I will do stand-up, and they will say sexist things to me, so because I'm a dude and I deserve it sometimes, and that's fair. That's April 21st, I want to say. Also check out my Facebook, which is brandonTgorin.com, and that will be on there. I'm doing a whole bunch of shows. You can check me out. Check out my Instagram, which is Brandon Gorin, which is just pictures of like Cecil, which you'll enjoy. And check out my Twitter, which is BTG, which is all just, I read 50 books a year, and I do quotes about those 50 books. But yeah, I do stand-up. I really enjoy it. It goes wrong more often than not, so I've done it for 5 years, and I think I had my first good set like 2 weeks ago.
Cool.
So that's a good growing moment, and it's good to be bad at stuff.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
My wife tells me that all the time.
Yeah, she's right. You should listen to your wife.
One more thing.
You should listen to your wife.
Milburn Stone Theatre, film, Saturday, that's this coming Saturday the 18th?
Film, Saturday, March 18th. It's coming. The snow will be gone by then. It is absolutely worth seeing. See something different, do something different. You want to get out, you've always wanted to get out and do something weird. I have an opportunity for you. I'd love for you to take it.
$5. Brandon's bringing the apples.
Free popcorn, free apples.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you. Speak to truth and beauty.
And now on Discover Cecil, in honor of St. Patrick's weekend at Minahane's Irish Pub in downtown Elkton, I went to downtown Elkton last week and filmed the Irish sessions, and my good friend Larry Adams was there, and we brought him on TV. Thank you, Larry. Welcome to Cecil Weekly.
Thank you.
You brought a couple instruments with you tonight you're going to play for us, correct?
Yep.
All right. Now, you have a guitar, and you have a fiddle. I saw you playing fiddle at Minahane's at the Irish Sessions. Tell us a little bit about those sessions.
Well, for a while they were only on Thursdays. Now they're also on Sundays, Sunday afternoons, like every other Sunday and every other Thursday. They've been going on for probably, well, I actually don't know how long they've been going on. I think the place went to the new management about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that. And they might have started around then. I joined about 2 years ago when you told me about them. I didn't know they were happening. You caught me at another gig doing something else and said, I know you like Irish. There's an ongoing thing going on right here local. So I checked it out and I have kept going ever since.
Well, it's really kind of cool, and you play the old-time Irish music with a lot of people who know how to do that. And the other gig that you mentioned was one where your first band that I saw you in many years ago, Snake Grinder, had some sort of reunion.
Yeah, at the Blue Crab. That was probably, let's see, it would have been about 40-year reunion, or 38 years or something like that, pretty close to 4 decades. Those were our, long time ago glory days. But I still play with the bass player from that band and another friend of ours from that era, and we play in a trio. We don't play out that much, but we're getting ready to.
Well, you were playing guitar back then and still do now. Tell us a little bit about how you got into the fiddle. You wasn't stateside that you did that, was it?
Yeah, actually it was, but it was. I'd started way back as a folk musician. Around the same time everyone else did, we went electric and started to, do rock and roll. Had about 5 or 6 years of doing that, and then went off and did other things. Got married, had kids, had a long sort of fallow period. But in the middle of that, I had this feeling when I'd been playing electric. I don't know if you've ever experienced this. When you're playing electric, the electric guitar is a lot different from an acoustic guitar. It sustains. It's a solo instrument. It's an instrument that, at least the way I was playing it, I was sort of imitating horns. You get that sort of like long, lean line, and you can't do that with acoustic instruments. They pluck. They don't like play that way. And so I thought, well, what can I do I could do that acoustically? And then all of a sudden it occurred to me, aha, the violin, you can play long, sustainy lines, you can play melodies.
Right.
And so at age 50, I just decided, what the hell? Pick it up. It was actually my first instrument when I was 9 years old, but I didn't pursue it. But it was actually the first thing I ever took lessons in when I used to live in California. And so I picked it up, and it didn't feel that weird. I mean, it felt like, natural in my hands. A lot of things translated from the guitar. And so I'm sort of here to say that, you can teach an old dog new tricks. You can actually start in mid-age, and it's really a lifetime business, music is. So around age 50, I started doing that. And I'm pretty much self-taught in Irish fiddle. I mostly got it from recordings until I was sort of good enough to sit in at sessions. And then I spent about 5 years overseas in England. My whole family lived there for that time. And while I was there, I did English sessions and Irish sessions as well, and then started gathering the tunes. Because that's really what it's really all about. You have to have enough tunes so you don't feel like a dolt sitting there in a session sort of waiting for the next tune that you know. I'd say you needed to know about, I don't know, maybe 150 tunes to start feeling like that. Because most of the people that go to these things that have been doing it for a while, they know 1,000 tunes. And the guys, the masters, they probably know 5,000 tunes. There's a lot of tunes out there.
Yeah, we've heard quite a few of them at Minahan's, and I should note that, speaking of masters, I think direct from Ireland, Rubicon is going to be there this Irish weekend, along with about 6 or 7 other different bands. So you're going to be there with the sessions, hopefully, right? Mm-hmm. And I would say, Larry, that we're probably getting close to the time where you can play for us. Is there anything else that you would like to bring to the table here for Cecil.tv and Cecil Weekly?
No, let's just get into it.
Let's just get into it. It's great to see you. I hadn't seen Larry for probably 20 years, when you were overseas, and I was glad to see him. Also, I should say that there was a book written about his band in Newark, Delaware back in the day, Snake Grinder Band. It's still kind of sort of in existence. And now, fast forward to now in Irish music, and Larry, you're going to play some stuff of your own and some public domain stuff, and who knows what. 2 instruments. Thank you for being on Cecil.tv, Cecil Weekly.
Thank you.
Hi, the first song I'm going to do has a local connection. It's not Irish, but it's the next best thing. It's Appalachian, and I say it has a local connection. I learned it from a fellow who isn't with us anymore, who used to live in the South, came up north in the 50s, and lived maybe 10 miles from here in Nottingham, Pennsylvania. His name is Kilby Snow, and a lot of people, a lot of folk musicians actually do know about his music. He only made 1 record. He made it for Folkways in, I think it was 1969. Kilby's no longer with us. He died in 1980 at age 75, but he gave us a lot of songs that came from his family, and I'd be honored to do one for you now. The song is called Wind and Rain. It was early one morning about the month of May. Oh, the wind and rain. Two lovers went fishing on a hot summer's day. Cry the dreadful wind and rain. He said to the lady, won't you marry me? Oh, the wind and rain. My little wife you'll always be. Cry the dreadful wind and rain. She said, oh no, that'll never do. Oh, the wind and rain. I love you, but I can't marry you. Cry the dreadful wind and rain. So he knocked her down and he kicked her around. Oh, the wind and rain. He hit her on the head with a battering ram. Cried the dreadful wind and rain. Then he threw her in the river to drown. Oh, the wind and rain. Watched her as she floated down. Cried the dreadful wind and rain. She floated on down to the mill in time. Oh, the wind and rain. She floated on down to the miller in time. Cried the dreadful wind and rain. The miller fished her out with his long fishing line. Oh, the wind and rain. The miller fished her out with his long fishing line. Cried the dreadful wind and rain. Then made fiddle pegs of her long finger bones. Oh, the wind and rain. Made fiddle pegs of her long finger bones. Cried the dreadful wind and rain. Made fiddle bow of her long curly hair. Oh, the wind and rain. Made fiddle bow of her long curly hair. Cried the dreadful wind and rain. Now the only song that fiddle will play, oh, the wind and rain. The only song that fiddle will play is Cry the Dreadful Wind and Rain. This next one, this last one, is it's just one tune this time. It's a little slower, and the reason I like it is because it bends the notes a lot. It's the closest thing I know to the Irish blues. So it like sort of makes a bridge to American music that way too. It's called Paul Halfpenny.